Hello, little dreamers, and welcome to our special story time. I am so happy you are here. Whatever the time of day, right here, right now, it is the perfect time for stories. We are about to journey to magical lands filled with talking animals, brave heroes, and sparkling wonders. So find a comfy spot, snuggle in with your favorite blanket or a cuddly friend, and let's get ready to open the big, beautiful book of imagination together. Storytime is a very special time, where we can step into a world where anything is possible. You are the most important part of this journey. Without you, these stories are just words on a page, but with you, they come alive. So get ready to be the chief adventurer and the master of make-believe. It's a place where we can laugh, learn, and let our imaginations run wild and free. Our magical journey is just about to begin. Are you ready? Let's go. Close your eyes for a moment. Can you feel that tingle? That is your imagination. It is the most magical, wonderful, powerful thing you have. Your imagination can take you anywhere. It is like having your very own magic carpet. Today, we are going to unfold that magic carpet together. Your imagination is our ticket to everything wonderful. In the world of stories, powered by our minds, anything can happen. Our magic carpet is hovering now. It knows we are ready. It's time to step aboard and let the first story begin. Before our grand adventure, let's get comfortable. Find your special spot, maybe with a brave teddy bear or a silly floppy dog. Give them a hug. They're invited on our adventure. Now let's create a quiet bubble around us. Inside, it's peaceful. The noises fade and we hear only my voice and the pictures in your mind. Relax, smile gently, and tell your heart you're ready for joy. Our adventure is clear for takeoff. I wonder what kinds of stories we will hear today. Our storybook is filled with so many different tales. We are going to meet some of the most wonderful characters you can imagine, like a small squirrel with a big heart, a little fish whose scales glitter like a lost rainbow, and a clever little duck named Daisy who meets a shy lion. We will meet even more amazing friends. Each story is like a shiny new key, unlocking a little door in our hearts and minds. The pages are turning, and the first chapter is about to be read. So, are you ready? Are you snuggled in and feeling cozy? Wonderful. The time has come. The sun is setting in our story world. A little hush is falling over the land. Let my voice be your guide as we step into our very first story, a grand old wood, a place called Whispering Grove. It's a peaceful, happy place, and it is home to many wonderful creatures. Our first friend is waiting. His name is Squeaky, and he is a little squirrel. An adventure is coming to find him, whether he feels ready for it or not. Bravery is about being scared, but doing the right thing anyway. So let's tiptoe quietly into Whispering Grove. The first words are whispering on the breeze. Listen closely. It all starts here. In Whispering Grove lived Squeaky, a little squirrel with chestnut fur and a fluffy tail. Squeaky was gentle, loved sunrises, knew the best berries, but he had a secret. He was timid. While others played tag, Squeaky stayed in his nest, startled by owls and twigs. He admired the brave squirrels, wishing he had their courage. His mother said he had a brave heart, but Squeaky wasn't sure. One sunny morning, organizing his acorns, Squeaky had no idea his life was about to change. That morning marked the start of the annual Great Nut Hunt, the most exciting day for Whispering Grove squirrels. Old Man Hazelnut would announce the hunt, and squirrels scattered to find the most special nuts for the winter store. There were prizes for the biggest, prettiest, and most hard-to-reach nuts. Squeaky watched, excited but fearful. There's a rumor of giant acorns over by Whispering Creek, called Rusty. Squeaky waved shyly, planning to stay near his oak tree. The forest grew quiet. Squeaky sighed, wondering if he was missing out. As he picked up a plain acorn, a tiny, sad sound drifted on the breeze, tugging at his heart. Squeaky tilted his head, eyes wide with curiosity. What was that sound? Not a chirp or a buzz, but a faint peep. Peep, peep, peep. It sounded lonely and sad. His first instinct was to hide. Strange noises meant trouble, and Squeaky avoided trouble. But then he heard it again, louder. It was a sound of distress, a call for help. Part of Squeaky told him to ignore it, but another part felt a tug. The sound was so small and helpless. He tried to collect nuts, but couldn't ignore the peeps. Against his better judgment, Squeaky decided to investigate. The sound came from the bramble patch, a thorny area most avoided. Squeaky's heart beat faster. The sad peep pulled him forward, curiosity bigger than his fear. Squeaky heard a peeping sound near the bramble patch. He peered through the leaves and saw a tiny baby bluebird huddled on the ground. Its wing was bent, and it looked up with frightened eyes. It had fallen from its nest. The little bird let out a desperate peep. Squeaky's heart melted. He forgot his fears and knew he had to help. The little bird was in danger. "Don't worry," Squeaky whispered. "I'm here. I will help you." The bramble patch looked like a fortress. He looked up and saw a branch reaching over the thorns. It was a risky leap, but Squeaky knew what he had to do. Just as Squeaky was gathering his courage, a large dark shadow fell over the bramble patch. Squeaky froze, his fur standing on end. He looked up and saw a huge hawk circling. It was Horace the hawk. Horace could spot a tiny mouse from high above. The baby bluebird trembled. Squeaky's heart hammered in his chest. Now it was a race against time. He knew he had to act fast. The fear he felt was immense. But then he looked at the terrified little bluebird, and he knew there were no other heroes around. He had to create a distraction. Squeaky grabbed a small pebble with his paws. With all his might, he threw it at a nearby tree trunk. Clack! The hawk, momentarily distracted, tilted its head. It gave Squeaky a precious few seconds. Now was the time to be brave. He scrambled up the trunk of his oak tree. He was no longer timid Squeaky. He was Squeaky the rescuer, and he had a very important job to do. The hawk was starting to circle back. He had to hurry. Squeaky climbed higher, the wind ruffling his fur, fear gripping him. But his mother's words echoed, "You have a brave heart inside you." He reached the branch above the bramble patch, saw the baby bird below, and remembering the leaps of his friends, took a deep breath and jumped flying through the air, landing safely beside the trembling bird. Heart pounding with triumph, Squeaky scurried to the baby bird, courage now stronger than fear. Squeaky gently encouraged the injured baby bird, guiding it to a dangling vine, their only escape from the thorns and the circling hawk. Together, they climbed slowly, Squeaky leading and supporting the bird until they reached a safe branch high above. The parent bluebirds arrived, chirping with relief and gratitude for Squeaky's brave rescue. Back at the oak, Squeaky was greeted by the forest. News of his bravery had spread, and even Old Man Hazelnut presented him with the golden acorn. The other squirrels cheered, and Squeaky, once timid, was now Squeaky the Brave, his courage inspiring all. He learned that true bravery is quiet, kind, and found in doing what's right, even when afraid. Our magic carpet lifts us from Whispering Grove, soaring over the treetops to the sparkling, endless blue sea. We dive beneath the waves, discovering a vibrant world of coral and fish and friendship, where a new story is about to begin. At Rainbow Reef, we're about to meet a special fish with a big problem. Let's swim closer and find him. In Rainbow Reef lived Finny, the rainbow fish, famous for his shimmering scales. But today he hid, sad and dull, a patch of his beautiful scales missing. After scraping against a shipwreck, Finny lost his most precious scales and felt ordinary, determined to find them and feel special again. With a swish of his tail, Finny set off on a quest to recover his lost rainbow, not knowing what else he might discover. Finny retraced his path, finding his first lost scale near a clamshell. Hope rekindled as he followed a trail of colors across the ocean floor. Focused on his search, he missed the sad sounds and waving claws of other sea creatures nearby. His world narrowed to his own loss. Finny was about to learn that sometimes, searching only for yourself can make you miss what truly matters. Coral, a kind-hearted crab, saw Finny, worried about his scales. She knew about a bigger problem and scuttled to catch up with Finny. "Finny, wait," she called. "Little Shelly, the baby snail, is lost in the Whispering Cave," she said. "He's too scared to come out." Coral looked hopefully at Finny. "Please, Finny, a scared little friend cannot wait." Finny looked from the 3 shiny scales in his fin to Coral's pleading eyes. He knew she was right. Finding his scales was important to him, but helping a scared friend was more important for everyone. With a sigh, he tucked his found scales safely into a little pouch he had made of seaweed. "Okay, Coral," he said, his voice now full of determination. "Take me to the Whispering Cave. We have to help Shelly." Coral's eyes lit up, and she gave a happy little click of her claws. She knew Finny had a good heart. The Whispering Cave was a large, dark opening in the side of a huge rock formation. It got its name because the currents flowing through its narrow tunnels made a strange, low whispering sound, like spooky voices sharing secrets. Many of the younger fish were afraid of it. As they got closer, Finny could hear the eerie sound, and his fins trembled just a little. It was dark inside, and he couldn't see very far. He could understand why a little baby snail would be terrified in a place like this. It was a big, scary, and lonely place to be. "Shelly? Little Shelly, are you in there?" Coral called out in her most gentle voice. From deep inside the cave came a tiny, muffled sob. "Go away," a little voice cried. It's too dark and spooky in here. I want my mommy." Finny's heart went out to the little snail. He knew he had to do something to make the cave seem less scary. He remembered what Coral had said about his bright colors. Even with some of his scales missing, he was still much brighter than the darkness of the cave. Taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, Finny swam slowly into the mouth of the cave. "Don't be scared, Shelley," he called, his voice as cheerful as he could make it. "It's me, Finny the rainbow fish. I've come to help you find your way out." He swam a little further in, letting the faint light from the cave entrance catch his remaining scales. A little sparkle of red, a shimmer of orange, and a glint of gold lit up the dark walls. He was like a little swimming lantern, pushing back the shadows with his own special light. Deep inside the cave, Shelley the baby snail was hiding inside his shell, trembling with fear. When he heard Finny's voice and saw the little flashes of color, he peeked out just a tiny bit. He saw the kind face of the rainbow fish, whose colors were making the scary shadows dance and shrink away. Finny didn't look scary at all. He looked friendly and warm. "Finny?" Shelley whispered, his voice wobbly. "Is that really you? I'm lost. I can't find my way back." Finny swam closer and gave the little snail a gentle, reassuring smile. "I know you're lost, Shelley, but you're not alone anymore," Finny said softly. "I'm here with you now, and so is Coral. We will get you out of here together. I promise." A promise is a very powerful thing, especially between friends. When Finny said the word promise, Shelley felt a little bit of his fear melt away. He trusted Finny. He knew the rainbow fish would not leave him here all alone. He uncurled himself a little more from his shell, feeling a tiny bit braver than he had just a moment before. "But what about the whispering noises?" Shelley asked, as a low whoosh echoed through the cave. "They sound like monsters." Finny listened for a moment. "That's not monsters," he explained kindly. "That's just the water playing a little game. It's like the wind in the seaweed just singing a sleepy song. There's nothing here that can hurt you." He then did a little loop-the-loop, making his scales sparkle and sending little rainbows dancing on the cave walls. Shelley watched, mesmerized, and even let out a tiny giggle. The cave didn't seem quite so scary with a friend making it beautiful. "Now," said Finny, "I need you to be a brave little snail. Can you do that for me?" Shelley nodded his head, his little antennae wobbling. "I think so," he whispered. "Good," said Finny. "Coral is waiting for us at the entrance. All you have to do is follow my colorful tail. I'll light up the path for you and we will be out of here in no time." With his new friend following close behind, Finny began to lead the way back towards the light, keeping his promise with every swish of his rainbow tail. As Finny led Shelley towards the cave entrance, they came to a place where the path was blocked. A thick curtain of dark green and brown seaweed had grown down from the ceiling, creating a tangled, confusing maze. It was impossible to see the way through. Shelley stopped and, honestly, his newfound courage started to fade. "Oh no!" he cried. "We're trapped! We'll never get out!" Finny looked at the wall of seaweed. It did look impossible. For a moment he felt a wave of doubt. How could they possibly get through this tangled mess? But Finny refused to give up. He had made a promise. He remembered how he had searched for his scales, looking carefully at every little detail on the seafloor. He decided to use the same focus now. "Don't worry, Shelley," he said confidently. "This isn't a wall, it's just a puzzle, and we can solve it together." He began to examine the curtain of seaweed, looking for a way through. He noticed that some of the seaweed strands were a lighter green than others. He wondered if that was a clue. He swam up to a light green strand and gave it a gentle nudge. It moved easily, showing a small gap behind it. "Aha!" he exclaimed. "I think I found the secret." He explained his idea to Shelley. "We just have to follow the path of the light green seaweed. It's the key to the puzzle." With renewed hope, they began to weave their way through the maze. Finny would find the next light green strand and push it aside, and Shelley would follow right behind him through the little tunnel it created. It was slow work, but they were making progress. Finally, after twisting and turning through the seaweed puzzle, they saw a bright light ahead. It was the entrance to the cave. They had solved it. With a final push through the last strand of seaweed, they swam out into the open water, blinking in the beautiful blue light. Coral was waiting there, clicking her claws with joy and relief. Shelley's mother, who had been waiting anxiously with Coral, rushed forward and gave her baby the biggest, snuggliest snail hug ever. She then turned to Finny, her eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you, Finny," she said. "You saved my little Shelley. You are a true hero." Seeing Shelley safe felt better than finding his lost scales. Coral found his green scale. Then everyone helped Finny find the rest. Soon he was a complete rainbow fish again. Finny realized helping Shelley felt better than having his colors back. His true colors were the kindness he had inside. Being a good friend made him shine. He knew the light you share from your heart is more beautiful than any color. Let's wave goodbye to our underwater friends. Our magical journey continues as we rise above the sparkling blue ocean, leaving the colorful reef below. We're now over the great African savanna, a land of tall grasses and incredible animals. Our magic carpet lands softly in the swaying grass. In the distance, giraffes munch on leaves and zebras drink from a watering hole. This is a tale of an unlikely friendship between a large and small creature. We need to find the king of this land, a lion, the most powerful animal in the savanna. Our story begins over there by that big rocky outcrop. Leo was the magnificent, honey-colored king of the savanna, but he had a secret. Leo was shy. He preferred sitting quietly, watching the clouds. Leo's roar was more like a squeaky cough, embarrassing him. He was a king who could not find his voice. Some animals didn't respect him, like a group of hyenas who would laugh at him. Their words hurt Leo, wishing he could be different. One day, lonely by the watering hole, someone was about to change King Leo's life forever. Daisy the duck waddled through the reeds. She loved to see new places and make new friends. Daisy was not afraid of anything. Daisy paddled into the water and saw a sad lion. Being a friendly duck, she wasn't scared at all. She paddled over to the lion. "Hello there, my name is Daisy. What's yours?" The lion was so surprised he jumped. "Mew," he squeaked. "That's a funny name. I'm going to call you Leo. Why do you look so sad?" Leo didn't have any friends. The other lions thought he was strange, and the other animals were too afraid of him. But Daisy the duck was different. She wasn't afraid of him and treated him like a regular animal. She chattered away to him, and Leo found himself listening intently. Daisy's stories were like a ray of sunshine in his lonely world. He had never told anyone his problems before, but it felt safe to tell Daisy. Being a king isn't about how loud you are, it's about being brave and kind. From that day on, an unlikely friendship blossomed. He had a friend, and having one true friend was starting to make him feel just a little bit braver. While Leo made a friend, the hyenas grew bolder, led by Hee-Haw. They mocked Leo's shyness and friendship with the duck. The hyenas caused trouble, even taking over the watering hole. They chased away other animals, declaring, "The king is too busy with his duck." The animals were scared, hoping Leo would help. Leo felt anger and fear. "I can't, Daisy," he said. Daisy replied, "A real king protects his friends. I have a clever idea." Daisy knew the roar had to come from inside Leo. Maybe they could practice. "We are going to play the copying game. I'll make a sound and you copy me in your big lion way." Leo nodded slowly. Daisy puffed out her chest and let out a loud, "Quack! Now you!" she said. He opened his mouth and made a sound that was a little bit louder than his usual mew. It was more of a muraph. "Excellent!" quacked Daisy. "Let's try again, louder!" They practiced. He was starting to feel the power inside him. He was actually having fun. Now think about those mean hyenas scaring your friends. Let that feeling build up inside you. Just think about being the king. Leo closed his eyes. A feeling of anger and protectiveness started to bubble up from deep inside. As Leo stood there, feelings of frustration and the desire to protect his friends swirled inside. All these feelings mixed together and grew bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger. He took the deepest breath he had ever taken, filling his lungs. Roar! The sound was magnificent, a deep, powerful roar that rolled across the plains like thunder. Leo's own eyes flew open in surprise. He had really roared. The other animals felt a surge of hope. Their king had found his voice. With his head held high, Leo took a step forward. He was Leo the king, ready to protect his kingdom. Leo walked towards the watering hole, with Daisy waddling proudly beside him. He did not run or charge. He walked with a calm, powerful confidence. The other animals parted respectfully to let him pass. When the hyenas saw him coming, they started to back away, their tails tucked between their legs. Hee-Haw tried to put on a brave face, but his swagger was gone, replaced by a nervous shuffle. Leo stopped at the edge of the water and looked directly at Hee-Haw, his golden eyes steady and strong. He didn't need to shout. He simply looked at the hyenas, and then he took another deep breath and let out a second, even more powerful roar. It was not a roar of anger, but a roar of authority. It was a roar that said, "This is my home, these are my friends, and you will treat them with respect." The message was perfectly clear. Hee-Haw and the other hyenas whimpered and scattered. running away into the tall grass as fast as their legs could carry them, their laughter completely gone. They knew they would not be causing any more trouble at the watering hole. A great cheer went up from all the other animals. The zebras neighed, the gazelles chirped, and the giraffes nodded their long necks in approval. They crowded around Leo, not with fear, but with gratitude and respect. They had their king back. Leo felt a warm glow in his heart. He had not only saved the day, but he had earned the respect of his fellow animals by being brave and standing up for what was right. He looked down at his small, feathered friend and gave her a gentle nudge with his nose, a lion's way of saying thank you. From that day forward, Leo was the wise and respected king of the savannah. He didn't roar all the time, because he learned that true strength isn't about being the loudest. It's about having the courage to speak up when it matters most, and the kindness to protect those who need you. He still spent his afternoons talking with his best friend, Daisy the duck, by the watering hole. And he knew that he owed it all to the clever little duck who had taught him that even the biggest lion can find his roar with a little help from a very good friend. Let's wave goodbye on the golden savannah. Our magic carpet is ready for flight. We are not going across the land or under the sea. This time we are going up, up, up. Higher than the tallest giraffe, higher than the highest mountain, and even higher than the fluffiest white clouds. We are leaving the bright blue sky behind us and soaring into the deep, dark blue sky of night. The sun has gone to sleep. Now it is time for the moon and the stars to come out and play. Look all around you. The world has become a beautiful blanket of sparkling lights. The stars are like tiny twinkling diamonds. Can you see the big bright moon? It's hanging in the sky like a giant gentle lantern, casting a soft silvery glow on the world below. It looks so peaceful and calm up here. The air is cool and quiet. All the busy sounds of the day have faded away. It is a magical time, a time for wishes and for dreams. Our magic carpet glides smoothly through the stars, taking us closer and closer to that big, beautiful moon. We are going to the moon itself. This is a story about a little rabbit who learns a very important lesson about sharing. It teaches us that the true magic in life comes from what we share with others. So let's get ready for a soft landing, preparing to touch down on the dusty, sparkling surface of the moon. In our story world, the moon is a magical garden. It is the perfect home for a very special rabbit. Our next adventure is about to begin under the light of a million distant stars. Living on the moon was a little rabbit named Pip. Pip was no ordinary rabbit. He was the keeper of the moon garden, a magical place. Pip loved his home, and he looked after his garden with great care. But being the only rabbit on the moon, he was sometimes a little bit lonely. He would often look down at the earth, wondering what it would be like to have friends. In the center of Pip's garden grew a starberry bush. They were the source of the moon's beautiful silvery glow. Every night, Pip would carefully pick a few of the ripest berries and arrange them on the moon's surface, creating the beautiful light that people on Earth could see. He was very proud of his work. The starberry bush was the heart of the moon, a beautiful plant with silver leaves and graceful branches. The berries pulsed with a soft, warm, golden light, like tiny, edible stars, shining down to the children sleeping on Earth. Pip's daily routine revolved around this bush. He watered its roots, dusted its leaves, and told it stories. He loved the bush and felt a great sense of pride in its beauty and magic. The berries were everything to Pip. His food, his light, his purpose. He couldn't imagine his life without it and was protective of his treasure. He built a little fence around the bush to mark it as his own. One night, as Pip was getting ready to harvest his glowing starberries, he saw something unusual in the sky. It wasn't a passing comet or a familiar constellation. It was a small, twinkling light that was moving slowly, and it seemed to be heading directly towards the moon. Pip watched, his nose twitching with curiosity and a little bit of alarm. The light got bigger and bigger, and soon he could see that it was a little spaceship, shaped like a golden seed pod. It drifted down gracefully and landed with a soft, gentle hiss not far from his moon garden. Pip had never had a visitor before. He quickly hopped behind his starberry bush, his heart thumping with a mixture of excitement and fear. Who could it be? A door on the golden spaceship opened and out stepped a small, strange, and wonderful-looking creature. It had a round, friendly face, big, curious eyes, and two long, floppy antennae that drooped down sadly. The little creature was a beautiful shade of blue, but it looked very tired and weak. It took a few wobbly steps onto the moon's surface and then sat down with a weary sigh. The little alien looked around at the beautiful, glowing garden, and its eyes fell upon the magnificent starberry bush. It saw the berries, pulsing with their warm, golden light. A little gasp of hope escaped its lips. It saw Pip peeking out from behind the bush and gave him a weak but friendly wave. "Hello," the alien said, its voice a soft, musical chime. "My name is Glimmer. I have traveled a very long way. My spaceship has run out of light energy, and I am lost. I saw the beautiful light of your moon, and hoped I might find help here." Glimmer looked at the berries with longing eyes. "Your star fruits," it chimed softly. "They are full of so much light. I think just one of them would be enough to power my ship and help me find my way home. My family will be so worried about me." Glimmer looked so small, so tired, and so hopeful. Pip looked at Glimmer, then at his precious starberry bush, and then back at Glimmer. He had never been asked to share before, and he didn't know what to do. His heart felt a little tug of sympathy for the lost alien. Pip looked at the berries. He needed berries for dinner and to light the moon. If he gave one to Glimmer, he would only have one spare. The thought made him anxious. These were his berries. Glimmer was a stranger. "I can't," Pip said. "These berries are for the moon." Glimmer's friendly face fell. "Oh," it chimed sadly. Glimmer looked out at the dark space, looking even more lost and lonely. A single tear rolled down its cheek. The sight made Pip's heart feel heavy. He ate a berry, but it didn't taste as sweet as usual. He looked at the berries closely, worry creeping into his heart. Pip saw the starberry's glow was dimmer than usual. The bright golden light was fading, turning sickly yellow. Panic washed over Pip. What was happening to his magical bush? Why was it failing now? Pip sat down, his ears drooping, looking at his pale, fading garden. His whole world was fading. Glimmer was watching Pip with its big, sad eyes. Pip understood. The magic of the starberries came from kindness. The light of the berries was fading because the light of kindness in his own heart had dimmed. The fading garden was a reflection of his own selfish choice. A great wave of shame and regret washed over Pip. He had been so worried about losing one of his precious berries that he had caused all of them to lose their magic. He had been so focused on his treasure that he had forgotten the most important thing of all. He looked at his one remaining spare berry. It was the dimmest of them all, barely glowing at all. But he knew what he had to do. It might not be enough, but he had to try. He had to fix his mistake. It wasn't about the berries anymore. It was about doing the right thing. Holding the pale, flickering berry carefully in his paws, Pip hopped over to the sad little alien. He stood in front of Glimmer and held out the berry as an offering. "I'm so sorry," Pip said, his voice full of genuine remorse. "I was wrong. I was being selfish. You are lost and you need help, and I have something that can help you. Please, take this. I want you to have it." He looked Glimmer right in the eye, his heart open and full of hope that he could make things right again. He was no longer thinking about himself at all. As Pip spoke those honest, kind words, something truly magical happened. The moment he offered the berry with a true and generous heart, a brilliant spark of golden light flared up within it. The dim pale glow instantly transformed back into a warm, bright, dazzling light, even brighter than before. The light from the berry in his paw was so intense that it lit up Glimmer's happy, surprised face. Pip looked back at the starberry bush, and he saw that all the other berries, both picked and on the branch, were flaring back to life, their magnificent golden glow returning. Glimmer accepted the berry with a grateful chime. "Thank you, Pip," it said, its antennae perking up with joy. As soon as Glimmer touched the berry, it began to pulse with a happy energy. The magic was flowing again, stronger than ever, because it was now powered by an act of true kindness and sharing. Pip felt a warmth spread through his own chest, a happiness far greater than he had ever felt just from keeping the berries for himself. He finally understood the true nature of his magical garden. Glimmer took the bright, beautiful starberry and placed it carefully into a compartment in its golden spaceship. Instantly, the ship hummed to life. Its lights flickered on, and a soft, happy tune began to play. The ship was fully powered, ready for its long journey home. Glimmer turned to Pip and gave him a big, warm hug. "You didn't just give me a berry, Pip," it chimed happily. "You gave me hope. You helped me find my way. I will never forget your kindness." With a final, cheerful wave, Glimmer hopped back into its ship, which rose silently into the starry sky and zoomed away in a trail of golden light. Pip stood and watched until the spaceship was just another twinkling star in the distance. He then turned to look at his garden. It was more beautiful than ever before. The starberry bush was glowing with a brilliant, magnificent light. The berries were so bright they made the whole moon feel warm and joyful. The moon itself shone down on the earth with a renewed, radiant glow, full of the magic of a kind deed. Pip realized that by giving one berry away, he hadn't lost anything at all. In fact, he had gained so much more. The light of his garden had become 100 times stronger. He understood now that the magic was not in the berries themselves, but in the act of sharing them. The more he gave, the more magic there would be. The light was not a treasure to be hoarded and kept, but a gift to be shared with anyone who needed it. From that night on, Pip tended his garden with a new understanding. He still harvested the berries for the moonlight, but he always set a few aside, placing them at the edge of his garden, just in case any other lost travelers happened to pass by needing help. Pip was never lonely again. He had learned the most important secret of the universe, that a giving heart is the most magical thing of all. He knew that true happiness comes not from what you have, but from what you give. Let's wave goodbye to Pip and his beautiful moon garden. It is time to come back down to earth. We pass through soft, fluffy clouds. Soon we can see the familiar greens of our own wonderful world. It is taking us to a small, cheerful town nestled in a cozy green valley. Our carpet is heading for a wide open field, a big green meadow filled with yellow buttercups. It is the start of a brand new day and the start of a brand new adventure. So, let's land our magic carpet softly in the dewy grass of the meadow. It is on this beautiful morning, in this peaceful green field, that we will meet our next friend. His name is Toby. Let's be very quiet and watch as our final story begins to unfold. In a little house at the edge of the meadow lived a boy named Toby. Toby had bright, curious eyes, a sprinkle of freckles across his nose, and hair the color of sunshine. More than anything else in the world, Toby loved adventures. He would spend hours reading books about explorers who sailed the seven seas and pilots who flew airplanes over tall mountains. He would pretend the little stream in the meadow was a mighty river, and the small hill behind his house was a giant, unexplored volcano. His imagination was his favorite playground, a place where anything was possible. For his birthday, Toby had received the best present he could ever imagine, a giant bright red balloon. It wasn't just a normal party balloon. This was a proper hot air balloon, big enough for one small boy to stand in its wicker basket. It was a gift from his grandfather, who had been an adventurer himself. Of course, the balloon couldn't really fly on its own with hot air. It was safely tied to the ground with a long, strong rope. Toby would spend hours standing in the basket, pretending to be a great explorer soaring through the sky, waving down at the tiny world below. Every morning, Toby would run out to his balloon. He would check the ropes and polish the little brass buttons on the basket. He would pack a small backpack with a juice box, a sandwich, and his favorite teddy bear, Barnaby, who was his first mate. Then he would climb into the basket and let his imagination take flight. He would imagine floating over his town, seeing the rooftops of the houses and the cars looking like tiny little beetles. He dreamed of flying high enough to touch the clouds and wave to the birds as they flew past. One sunny morning, just like any other, Toby was in his balloon, ready for a new imaginary adventure. He had his backpack, Barnaby was sitting safely in the corner of the basket, and Toby had his hands on the pretend controls. He was giving his flight commands in a very serious, pilot-like voice. "First mate Barnaby, prepare for liftoff. We are heading for the candy floss clouds today." He had no idea that on this particular morning, his pretend adventure was about to become a very real one. As Toby was busy with his imaginary flight checks, a sudden, surprising gust of wind swept across the meadow. It was a mischievous, playful wind, stronger than any of the gentle breezes that usually blew through the valley. The wind swirled around the big red balloon, making it dance and sway. It tugged and pulled at the strong rope that held the balloon safely to the ground. Toby felt the basket rock beneath his feet and held on tight, letting out a little gasp of surprise. This was much more exciting than his usual pretend journeys. The rope was tied to a sturdy old wooden peg that his grandfather had hammered deep into the earth. For years, that peg had held firm. But over the winter, the rain had made the ground soft, and the strong, sudden gust of wind gave one last mighty tug. With a soft pop sound, the peg wiggled loose from the damp soil. The rope snaked free, and suddenly, the big red balloon was no longer tied to the ground. It was free. Toby felt a strange, lurching sensation as the basket lifted gently off the grass. For a moment, Toby was too stunned to do anything but hold on. He looked down and saw the green grass of the meadow shrinking below him. His house was getting smaller and smaller. This wasn't pretend anymore. He was really truly flying. A wave of fear washed over him for a second. He was all alone, floating up into the big, wide sky. He looked at Barnaby the bear, whose button eyes stared back at him calmly. Toby took a deep breath. The fear started to melt away, replaced by a fizzing, bubbling feeling of pure excitement. He was an explorer, a real adventurer, just like in his books. This was the moment he had always dreamed of. He stood up a little straighter in the basket and looked around. The world was opening up around him like a giant map. He could see things he had never seen before. The fear was gone, and in its place was a huge, soaring sense of wonder and curiosity. His big red balloon was carrying him on the adventure of a lifetime, and Toby couldn't wait to see where the wind would take him next. The big red balloon drifted gently on the morning breeze, climbing higher and higher into the bright blue sky. Toby peered over the edge of the basket, his eyes wide with amazement. He was floating right over his town. From up here, everything looked completely different. The houses with their red roofs looked like the little toy blocks he played with on his bedroom floor. The cars and trucks moving along the streets were like tiny, colorful ladybugs crawling along gray ribbons. He could see the whole town laid out beneath him, a perfect miniature world. He floated over the school playground, where he could see the swings and the slide looking small enough for a doll to play on. He drifted over the town square where the big clock tower, which always seemed so tall from the ground, now looked like a little pencil pointing at the sky. He even saw Mrs. Higgins from next door, hanging her washing in her garden. She looked so tiny. Toby waved down at her, even though he knew she couldn't see him. He felt like a friendly giant, looking down on a peaceful, sleeping town. The balloon followed the path of the sparkling river that wound its way through the valley. From his vantage point in the sky, Toby could see how the river twisted and turned, something he could never see from the ground. He watched a little flock of ducks paddling in a perfect line, creating tiny V-shaped ripples in the water behind them. He saw a farmer on a green tractor in a faraway field, looking like a little toy moving across a big brown carpet. It was all so beautiful and fascinating. He wished he could stay up here forever, watching the world go by. He felt a gentle bump and looked up. The balloon had reached the clouds. He was floating among the big, white, puffy clouds he had always dreamed of touching. They were like giant, soft mountains of cotton wool. He reached out his hand and let his fingers trail through the cool, misty vapor of a passing cloud. It felt magical. He giggled with delight. This was even better than he had imagined. He and Barnaby were having a real cloud adventure. He had no idea that he was about to discover he wasn't the only one enjoying the view from up here. As the balloon drifted peacefully through a particularly large and fluffy cloud, Toby heard a strange sound. It was a faint, sad coo that seemed to be coming from somewhere nearby. Toby peered through the mist, trying to see where the sound was coming from. As his balloon emerged from the other side of the cloud, he saw it. Perched on a small, lonely wisp of a cloud was a little white pigeon. But it wasn't a normal pigeon. This pigeon had a small, colorful envelope tied carefully to its leg with a little ribbon. The pigeon looked very tired and distressed. One of its wings was drooping slightly, and it was shivering, even though the sun was warm. It looked at Toby and his big red balloon with wide, worried eyes and let out another soft, sad coo. Toby's adventurous heart was also a very kind heart. He forgot all about his own amazing journey and only felt concern for the little bird. It was clearly in some kind of trouble, all alone up here so high in the sky. He knew he had to do something to help. "Don't be scared, little bird," Toby said in a soft, gentle voice, just as he would talk to a frightened kitten. "I won't hurt you. Are you all right?" The pigeon seemed to understand his kind tone. It hopped a little closer, to the very edge of its cloud perch, and looked at him hopefully. Toby realized the balloon was drifting slowly closer to the pigeon. If he was careful, he might be able to reach it. He knew he had to be very gentle, so as not to frighten the poor creature away. With great care, Toby leaned over the edge of the basket and held out his hand, palm up, as a peaceful offering. "Come on," he whispered. "You can rest in my basket. It's safe and warm in here." The pigeon looked at his outstretched hand, then at his friendly face, and seemed to make a decision. With a little hop and a flutter of its good wing, it landed softly in Toby's hand. Toby carefully brought the bird into the basket and settled it gently on a soft coil of rope next to Barnaby the bear. He had made a new friend in the sky. Toby gently examined his new feathered passenger. He could see now that the pigeon's wing wasn't badly hurt, but it was sprained and tired. The bird had clearly been flying for a very long time and was exhausted. It gratefully drank some water that Toby poured into a little cup he had in his backpack. As the pigeon rested, Toby looked at the small envelope tied to its leg. It was a very important-looking envelope, made of thick, creamy paper and sealed with a fancy wax seal. It was addressed to the lighthouse keeper, Eagle Point. Toby knew exactly where Eagle Point was. It was a rocky point of land far down the coast, where a tall, striped lighthouse stood to warn ships away from the dangerous rocks. His grandfather had taken him to see it once. It was a very long way away. This little pigeon was a messenger, a carrier pigeon, and it had a very important message to deliver. But with its tired wing, there was no way it could fly all the way to the lighthouse on its own. It needed help to complete its very important mission. Just as Toby was wondering what to do, he noticed a change in the weather. The playful wind that had carried him so high was starting to die down. The balloon stopped drifting forward and began to float slowly downwards, back towards the valley he had come from. Toby realized his amazing adventure was coming to an end. Soon the balloon would land back in a field and he would be home. But what about the pigeon? What about its important message for the lighthouse keeper? He looked at the tired little bird who was now peacefully asleep in the bottom of the basket. He looked at the important letter. A great sense of responsibility settled on Toby's small shoulders. He couldn't just land and leave the pigeon. He was an adventurer, and adventurers don't give up on a mission. This was no longer just his fun adventure. It had become a rescue mission. He had to find a way to help his new friend. He had to get that letter to the lighthouse, but how could he steer a balloon that only went where the wind took it? Toby looked around, thinking, how could he change the balloon's direction? He remembered winds at different heights often blow in different directions. If he went higher, maybe the wind would take him towards the coast. To go higher, he needed to be lighter. He dropped his backpack over the side. The balloon began to rise again. The wind at this higher altitude was different. It was blowing towards the sea. He was heading for the coast. A huge smile spread across Toby's face. He had taken control of his own adventure. With a new sense of purpose, he stood proudly, steering his balloon towards the distant horizon. Toby floated for a long time. Soon he smelled the salty air of the sea and saw a thin strip of blue water meeting green land. He could make out the Eagle Point lighthouse. He had done it. Now he just had to figure out how to land. The balloon started its final, gentle descent toward the grassy lawn behind the lighthouse. A man in a blue coat came out, pointing up at the sky in astonishment. The basket touched down gently. He was safe. "Goodness me, a boy in a balloon," the man exclaimed. Toby explained his flight and the rescue of the little pigeon. The man took the letter, grateful. "You are a true hero." Toby's parents were proud. Toby became a local hero. Our time with Toby has come to an end. Let's wave goodbye to our brave young pilot and the kind lighthouse keeper. Our magic carpet is ready for one last journey today. It is time for a quiet, cozy story in the sleepy forest. Our magic carpet glides down towards a part of the woods we have not yet visited. It is a very peaceful and quiet corner of the world. This final tale is about all the animals of this quiet forest, and how working together can solve big problems. So let's land our magic carpet on a soft patch of moss, right at the edge of the sleepy forest. But tonight, there is a problem in the sleepy forest, a problem that is keeping everyone awake. Let's tiptoe in and see what could possibly be troubling this peaceful place. As night began to fall in the sleepy forest, a chilly wind started to blow. It wasn't the strong, gusty wind that took Toby's balloon on an adventure. No, it was a sneaky, shivery wind that seemed to find its way into every nook and cranny. It whistled through the keyholes of badger sets and snuck through the tiny gaps in rabbit burrows. It ruffled the feathers of the sleeping owls and made the little field mice tremble in their grassy nests. The long, warm days of summer were over, and the first real chill of autumn had arrived, catching everyone by surprise. None of the animals could get to sleep. Barnaby Bear, who usually snored so loudly it shook the berries on the bushes, was tossing and turning in his big cave. The family of rabbits in the warren under the big oak tree were all huddled together, their noses twitching with cold. Even Wise Old Owl, who usually loved the cool night air, found himself shivering on his branch, unable to settle down. The forest, which was normally filled with soft, sleepy snores, was instead filled with little shivers, chattering teeth, and unhappy sighs. The problem was that no one was quite ready for the cold. The bears hadn't put on enough winter fat yet. The squirrels had gathered nuts, but they hadn't finished lining their nests with extra moss for warmth. The badgers had dug their dens deep, but the cold air still found a way to creep in through the entrance. Every animal had prepared for winter in their own way, but this sudden cold snap had come too early. Each animal shivered alone in their own home, thinking it was their own private problem to solve. The forest felt grumpy and tired. A good night's sleep is very important for animals just as much as for little children. Without it, everyone feels cross and out of sorts. The usual peace of the sleepy forest was gone, replaced by a restless, shivery unhappiness. The animals were too cold to sleep, and they were too tired to think of a good way to get warm. They just lay there in the dark, wishing for the warm sun to return, not realizing that the answer to their problem was all around them. Barnaby Bear could stand it no longer. With a great, grumbly groan, he sat up in his large, cold cave. His fur was thick, but the chilly draft was finding its way right to his skin. He was supposed to be getting ready for his long winter sleep, but how could he possibly hibernate if he couldn't even manage one night's rest? He felt cross and decided that a walk might warm him up. He lumbered out of his cave, his big paws making soft, thudding sounds on the mossy ground. The cold night air hit him, and he shivered a mighty shiver that shook a nearby sapling. As he walked, he passed by the big oak tree where the rabbit family lived. He could hear tiny, unhappy whimpers coming from their burrow. He peeked down the entrance hole. "What's all the fuss down there?" he rumbled in his deep, sleepy voice. Papa Rabbit poked his head out, his long ears drooping sadly. "Oh, Barnaby," he whispered, "we are all so cold. The little ones can't sleep, and their shivering is keeping us all awake. This wind has come far too early this year. We haven't had time to gather enough soft bedding." Barnaby Bear nodded sympathetically. "I know just how you feel," he grumbled. "My cave feels like an icebox. I can't sleep a wink." He continued his walk, feeling a little less alone in his problem now. A few steps further, he saw Old Owl perched unhappily on a branch, trying to tuck his head under a wing that kept shivering. "You too, Owl?" Barnaby called up. Old Owl opened one big, tired eye. "Hoo-hoo indeed," he hooted softly. "This wind cuts right through my feathers. A proper night for a warm fire. If only we owls knew how to make one." Barnaby realized that the problem was not just his, or the rabbits, or the owls. It was everyone's problem. All over the forest, his friends and neighbors were awake and cold. He had always thought of his cave as his own private space, and their burrows and nests as theirs. But tonight, their shared problem of the cold wind made the whole forest feel like one big, shivery house. A grumpy, tired idea began to form in his big, sleepy head. If they were all awake anyway, maybe they should do something about it. Barnaby Bear decided to call a meeting. It was a very unusual time for a meeting, in the middle of the night, but these were unusual circumstances. He let out a loud, grumbly call, not a roar like Leo's, but a deep rumble-grumble that echoed through the quiet forest. One by one, sleepy, shivery animals emerged from their homes and gathered in a small clearing. There were rabbits and squirrels, foxes and deer, and even Boris the badger, who was known for being the grumpiest animal in the whole forest, especially when his sleep was disturbed. "What is the meaning of this racket?" Boris Badger grumped, trudging into the clearing with a piece of moss still stuck to his nose from his failed attempt at sleep. "I was almost very nearly on the edge of maybe falling asleep, and you have to wake the whole forest with your bellowing." He glared at Barnaby Bear with his small, beady eyes. "It's this dreadful cold," he complained, wrapping his paws around himself. "My den is supposed to be the coziest place in the forest, but it feels like a damp, chilly cellar tonight. It's just awful." All the other animals started to murmur in agreement. "Our nest is too drafty," chattered a squirrel. "We're all huddled together, but it's not enough," squeaked one of the rabbits. Everyone started talking at once, complaining about their own cold burrows and nests. They all had the same problem, but they were all talking about it as if it were only happening to them. They were a forest full of cold, grumpy individuals, not a community working together. They complained and grumbled, but no one offered any ideas. Barnaby Bear held up a big paw for silence. "Grumbling won't make us any warmer," he said, his voice deep and steady. "We are all cold, we are all tired, we cannot change the wind, and we cannot make the sun come up any faster. But we are all here, together. Surely if we put all our clever heads together, we can think of something to do. There must be a way for us to get warm. Does anyone at all have an idea?" He looked around at the assembled animals who just shivered and stared back at him blankly. A deep silence fell over the clearing, broken only by the whistling wind and the chattering of teeth. The animals looked at each other, but nobody seemed to have a solution. The squirrel suggested gathering more nuts, but Barnaby Bear pointed out that nuts, while tasty, were not very warm to sleep on. A young fox suggested they all run in circles to warm up, but Old Owl wisely hooted that they would just get more tired and would be even colder when they stopped. The animals were good at their own jobs, but they weren't used to solving problems together. Boris the Badger sniffed dismissively. "This is pointless," he grumbled. "The only solution is a thicker door for my den. I shall go and find a large, flat stone to block the entrance." And with that, he trudged off into the darkness by himself, determined to solve his own problem in his own way. The other animals watched him go. His idea might work for him and his stone door, but it wouldn't help the rabbits in their burrow or the owl in his tree. They needed a solution that could help everyone, not just one animal. Barnaby Bear sighed. His idea for a meeting didn't seem to be working. Maybe Boris was right. Maybe they should all just go back to their own homes and shiver by themselves until morning. He felt his own grumpy feelings returning. But then he looked at the faces of the little animals, the tiny field mice and the baby rabbits, who were looking up at him with their big, hopeful eyes. He couldn't give up on them. There had to be an answer. He just wasn't looking in the right place. "Let's think," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "What are the warmest things in the forest? What do we use to make our nests cozy?" A squirrel immediately answered, "Dry leaves." A rabbit added, "Soft moss." Old Owl hooted, "Fluffy feathers from last season's molt." They were all good ideas, but they were still thinking about their own separate nests. How could they use these things to help everyone at once? The final best idea was about to come from the smallest creature in the entire clearing. Just then, a tiny, timid voice squeaked up from the very back of the crowd. "Excuse me," it said, so quietly that Barnaby had to lean down to hear. It was Millie, a tiny field mouse who was usually too shy to speak at all. She was standing on her tiptoes, her little whiskers trembling. "I have a little idea," she squeaked. "It might be a silly idea, but I was thinking, my grandmother used to tell me stories about how the human children in the nearby farms stay warm. They sleep under big, soft things made of little patches all sewn together." Barnaby Bear looked puzzled. "Patches sewn together?" he asked. "What are you talking about, little one?" Millie took a deep breath. "They call them quilts," she said, her voice a little stronger now. What if we made a giant quilt for the whole forest? We could use all the warm things you just talked about. We could get all the big dry leaves and all the soft moss and all the fluffy feathers, and we could find long, tough grasses and flexible vines to weave them all together. We could make one giant warm blanket for all of us." A hush fell over the clearing as all the animals thought about Millie's idea. A giant quilt for the whole forest. At first it sounded impossible, but the more they thought about it, the more sense it made. They could lay it over the rabbit warren to block the drafts. They could tuck it around the base of the trees to keep the squirrels' nests warm. They could even make a little tent-like structure for Old Owl. It was a brilliant idea, an idea that would only work if everyone helped. It was an idea about working together. Even Boris the Badger, who was returning from his unsuccessful search for the perfect stone door, overheard the little mouse's suggestion. He stopped and listened, his grumpy face softening just a little. A giant blanket? It sounded much cozier than a cold, hard stone. For the first time all night, a little spark of hope appeared in the sleepy forest. The idea had come not from the biggest or the strongest or the wisest animal, but from the very smallest. And it was the best idea of all. Immediately, the forest was filled with a new kind of energy. The grumpy, tired mood was replaced by a buzz of excitement and purpose. "To work!" rumbled Barnaby Bear, a happy smile on his face. The animals scattered, each one knowing exactly what to do. The squirrels, who were the best climbers, scampered up the trees to find the biggest, driest leaves and gently drop them to the ground. The rabbits, with their twitchy noses, were experts at finding the softest, greenest patches of moss and gathering them in big piles. The birds flew about, collecting stray feathers and long, strong blades of grass. Even Boris the Badger decided to help. His strong claws were perfect for digging up the tough roots of the vine plants that Millie had mentioned. He worked with a surprising energy, no longer grumbling, but focused on his important task. Barnaby Bear used his great strength to drag large pieces of bark to the clearing, creating a flat surface where they could weave everything together. Everyone had a job, from the biggest bear to the tiniest mouse, and everyone's job was important. They worked together under the pale light of the moon. They laid the strong vines down like a giant net, Then, they began to weave in all the materials they had gathered. They wove in the big, crackly oak leaves and the soft, springy moss. They tucked in the fluffy feathers and the sweet-smelling pine needles. It was hard work, but no one complained. They were working together, side by side, their shared goal making them feel warmer than any blanket ever could. They laughed and chattered as they worked, their friendship a bright spark in the chilly night. Slowly but surely, the great forest quilt began to take shape. It was a beautiful sight, a patchwork of all the colors and textures of the forest. It was brown and green and gray, with little specks of white from the feathers and bits of red from fallen berries. It was a blanket made not just of leaves and moss, but of teamwork and friendship. It was a symbol of their community, a warm and wonderful thing they had created together, proving that many paws make light work. By the time the first hints of dawn were touching the sky, the great forest quilt was finished. It was huge, big enough to cover the main clearing and stretch over to the nearby dens and burrows. It was thick and soft and smelled wonderfully of the forest. With a great coordinated effort, all the animals lifted the quilt. They draped it carefully over the entrances to the burrows and dens, and tucked it snugly around the base of the trees where the squirrels and birds lived. A collective sigh of warmth and relief went through the crowd. The chilly wind could no longer find its way in. The dens were cozy, the nests were snug, and the burrows were warm. The animals all found a comfortable spot under the edge of their magnificent creation. Boris the badger found that a corner of the quilt made a much better door than any stone ever could. Old Owl happily perched on a branch that was sheltered by a draped section of the quilt. Barnaby Bear snuggled down next to the rabbit warren, and the tiny squeak of thanks he heard from inside made him feel warmer than any fur coat. The sleepy forest was finally living up to its name. A peaceful hush fell as, one by one, the tired but happy animals drifted off to sleep. They were no longer shivering alone in their separate homes. They were sleeping soundly together, kept warm by the quilt they had made, and by the friendship they had strengthened. They had learned that night that everyone, no matter how big or small, has something valuable to offer, and that the best way to solve a big problem is to face it together, as a community. And as the sun rose higher, casting a golden glow over the sleeping forest, it shone down on a truly beautiful sight. It wasn't just the patchwork quilt that was beautiful. It was the sight of all the different animals, resting together in warmth and peace. They had turned a cold, grumpy night into a lesson about teamwork and kindness. And the friendship they had woven together that night was even stronger, warmer, and more wonderful than the great forest quilt itself. And so, with the animals of the sleepy forest all warm and cozy under their magnificent quilt, our final story comes to a gentle end. The big, magical book of adventures is closing its pages for now. The sun has set in our story world, and the moon is starting to cast its soft silvery light. What a wonderful journey we have had together today. We have traveled to so many amazing places and met so many incredible new friends. Your imagination has been our guide, painting all the beautiful pictures in your mind and making every story come alive. The book is closed, the tales are told, but the magic, my dear friend, the magic will last forever. It is time for us to say a fond farewell to our story world, until our next adventure together. Every story we shared today was like a little seed that we planted in the garden of your mind. And each of these seeds holds a special lesson, a little piece of wisdom that can help you grow to be kind and brave and strong. He learned that the kindness you show to others is what makes you truly shine. Each of our friends gave us a little gift of knowledge to put in our pockets. These are invisible treasures that you can carry with you every single day. These lessons are now a part of you, helping you to be the best and kindest person you can be. These stories show us that being a hero has nothing to do with how big or small you are. You, my dear little dreamer, have all of those wonderful qualities inside you. You have a hero's heart, ready to do amazing and kind things every single day of your life. Do you remember the sound of Leo the lion's magnificent roar? It was a sound that shook the savannah and sent the pesky hyenas running for the hills. But for a long time, that big roar was trapped inside him, hidden behind his shyness. He needed a friend, a very small and very clever duck named Daisy, to help him find his voice. Their surprising friendship taught us something very important. It showed us that true strength isn't always about being the loudest or the strongest. Sometimes it's about having the courage to be yourself and to speak up for what is right. Daisy the duck was not big or strong like Leo, but she had a different kind of power. She had the power of confidence and the power of encouragement. She didn't laugh at Leo's squeaky voice. Instead, she helped him believe in himself. She showed us that a few kind words from a friend can be the most powerful magic in the world. They can help someone who feels small feel big and brave. Leo and Daisy's story reminds us to always be a friend like Daisy, someone who lifts others up and helps them find their own roar. Think about all the animals in the sleepy forest. At first, they were all cold and grumpy, shivering all alone in their own separate homes. They each had their own little problem. But when they came together and shared their troubles, they found a solution that was bigger and better than anything they could have done on their own. They learned that by working together, they could create something wonderful, something that would keep everyone warm. Their great forest quilt was a blanket woven with leaves, moss, and the strong threads of friendship and teamwork. Their story, just like Leo and Daisy's, teaches us how important it is to work together and to listen to one another. The very best idea for the forest quilt came from Millie, the tiniest mouse, who was almost too shy to speak. It shows us that everyone has something valuable to contribute, no matter their size. When we combine our different strengths and ideas, we can solve any problem and create amazing things. It's a wonderful reminder that we are always stronger and better when we are together. Now let's travel back in our minds up to the shimmering silvery moon. Remember Pip, the little white rabbit who was the keeper of the magical starberry bush? At first he loved his glowing berries so much that he wanted to keep them all for himself. He thought that his treasure was something to be counted and hoarded. But when he chose not to share, he saw the magic begin to fade, not just from the berries, but from his own heart as well. He felt a coldness that had nothing to do with the temperature on the moon. It was only when he offered his last, dimmest berry to the lost alien Glimmer that the true magic was revealed. The moment he chose to be kind and generous, the light came rushing back, brighter and more beautiful than ever before. Pip learned the most wonderful secret in the universe, that happiness is not a treasure to be kept, but a light to be shared. The more kindness and love you give away, the more you have inside your own heart. The glow of a shared starberry is the warmest and most magical light of all. And what about Toby, our brave adventurer in the big red balloon? He was on the most exciting journey of his life, floating among the clouds. He could have just enjoyed his own amazing adventure. But when he saw the little pigeon in trouble, he didn't hesitate. He shared his time, his water, and even his backpack to help his new friend. He turned his fun ride into a rescue mission. Toby showed us that the best adventures are the ones where we show kindness and courage along the way, helping those we meet on our journey. Both Pip and Toby learned that the world is a much more magical place when we think of others. Sharing doesn't mean you have less for yourself. In fact, it often means you gain something far more precious, the warm, happy feeling of friendship and the joy of a kind deed. Their stories remind us to keep our hearts open, to share our smiles, our toys, and our kindness with everyone we meet. A giving heart is like Pip's magical bush. It never runs out of light, and it makes the whole world glow. Now, I want you to get as comfortable and as cozy as you possibly can. Snuggle down deep under your blankets. Let your body feel heavy and relaxed, like a sleepy little bear settling in for a long winter's nap. Close your eyes gently, and let's take one last trip on our magic carpet of imagination. This time, we don't need to go far. We are just going to drift slowly through all the wonderful memories we made together today. Let the happy pictures from our stories float through your mind like soft, colorful clouds. First, can you see the green leaves of Whispering Grove? Can you see brave little Squeaky standing proudly with his golden acorn? Feel the courage he felt, that warm, strong feeling in your own heart. Now let's dive down into the sparkling blue sea. See Finny the rainbow fish, swimming happily with all his friends, his scales glittering. Feel the joy he felt when he helped little Shelley, that wonderful warmth of being a good friend. Let these happy feelings fill you up from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Now, let's float over to the golden savanna. Hear the distant, proud roar of Leo the lion, a sound of confidence and kindness. See him sitting peacefully with his best friend Daisy the duck. Feel the happiness of their unlikely friendship. Now, let's fly higher to the glowing moon. See Pip the rabbit waving goodbye to his new alien friend, his garden shining more brightly than ever. Feel the magic of his giving heart. And now, drift back to Earth to see Toby's red balloon landing gently by the tall lighthouse. Feel the thrill of his adventure and the pride of his brave, kind deed. Finally, let's tiptoe into the sleepy forest. See all the animals nestled together, warm and safe under their great forest quilt. Feel the comfort and peace of their community, the warmth of their shared friendship. All of these friends, all of these places, all of these feelings are yours to keep. They are tucked away safely inside your memory, ready to comfort you and make you smile whenever you think of them. They are your friends forever, and they are all wishing you a very good night and the sweetest of dreams. Our wonderful magic carpet, which has carried us so far and so faithfully today, is also getting sleepy now. It has flown us over forests and oceans, across savannas, and all the way to the moon and back. It has been a long and exciting day for a magic carpet. It is ready to be rolled up carefully and put away until our next story time. Can you feel it growing softer and warmer beneath you? It is turning back into your very own cozy, comfortable bed. The magical journey is over, and the time for restful sleep has begun. Your bed is the most magical carpet of all, because it is a dream carpet. It is ready to carry you off to your own special dreamland, a place where you are the hero of every story. In your dreams tonight, you can be as brave as Squeaky and as kind as Finny. You can have the confidence of Leo the lion and the generous heart of Pip the rabbit. You can be as clever as Daisy the duck and as adventurous as Toby. You can work with your friends like the animals of the sleepy forest. Anything is possible in the wonderful world of your dreams. So let your body sink down into your soft mattress. Let your head feel heavy and peaceful on your pillow. Let your blankets tuck you in like a warm, gentle hug. Imagine they are woven from the softest clouds and the warmest sunbeams. They will keep you safe and sound all through the night. The adventures of the day are over, and your body needs to rest and recharge, so you will have lots of energy for playing and learning and having new adventures when you wake up tomorrow. It is time to let go of all your thoughts and wiggles. Let a quiet, happy feeling wash over you, like a gentle wave on a calm, moonlit beach. With each breath you take, feel yourself becoming more and more relaxed, more and more sleepy. Breathe in the peace and quiet of the night, and breathe out any leftover energy from the day. Your eyelids are feeling heavy, your body is feeling cozy, and your heart is full of happy stories. Your dream carpet is humming softly, ready and waiting to whisk you away to a land of wonderful, peaceful sleep. And so, my dear little friend, our special story time together has come to a peaceful close. Thank you for sharing your wonderful imagination with me today. It has been a joy and an honor to travel with you to so many magical places. I hope the stories have filled your heart with happiness and your head with beautiful dreams. Remember all the lessons our friends have taught us: to be brave, to be kind, to be helpful, to share, to be a good friend, and to have the courage to be yourself. These are the best treasures of all. Now it is time for me to whisper goodnight. It is time for you to close your eyes and let the gentle magic of sleep carry you away. May your dreams be as colorful as Finny's scales and as bright as Pip's starberries. May you dream of soaring high in a red balloon and of roaring with the confidence of a king. May you dream of friendships as true as Leo and Daisy's, and of working together with all your friends to create something warm and wonderful. The world of dreams is your own special storybook, and you can fill its pages with anything you can imagine. The moon is watching over you, and the stars are twinkling goodnight just for you. All of your story friends are wishing you a peaceful rest. The whole world is quiet, getting ready for a new day. And you, little adventurer, have earned a good long sleep after all the amazing things we have done together. Rest well and let your mind and body recharge. Tomorrow is a brand new day, full of new things to see, new games to play, and new opportunities to be kind and brave. Sleep now, little one. Sleep deeply and peacefully. Let the quiet of the night wrap around you like the softest, warmest blanket. I am so glad we could spend this time together, and I will be waiting right here for you the next time you are ready for another storytime adventure. Until then, good night, sleep tight, and have the sweetest and most wonderful dreams. Good night, little adventurer.